Hello, welcome to the Schmoedown Reactors Summit, where we talk about all things Schmoedown and stuff. That's all we talk about, Schmoedown. Unless we go on a tangent, which is what I'm going on right now. That's what they call a tangent, friends. This week we have a lot to talk about with these two great matches, all the upcoming stuff. We're in the official lead up to the Collision, which is coming up in just a few weeks, which is craziness. Seriously, 2 weeks from now, we'll be in Collision. It's going to be awesome. But we have a lot to talk about before we get to Collision, so let's get into it. Today, I'm joined with my good friend, Malcolm Lay. How's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. This was such a great match, and we may or may not talk about it, but the rankings got a really big shake-up today, so...
Yes, they did. We will see if we have time to talk about that. I'm sure we will. But we have these matches to talk about. And the first of the two matches was just a fantastic match. It was so good. And I don't know that a lot of people thought it was going to be as good as it ended up being. But we have the family versus Inky and the Brain. I think going into it, most people just assumed that the family was going to win easily, hands down. I was... maybe I thought that. I did want Inky and the Brain to win because it would be a great underdog story. But the family did end up winning. I don't think a lot of people are too surprised that they won. Maybe they are surprised about how close the match was, because this was an incredibly close match. Really enjoyable. Malcolm, what did you think about this match?
Yeah, on paper, this match should not have been as close as it was. Because I mean, this match was happening because Devon just really wants to just call out whoever he wants, and it's like they'll. But I mean, honestly, I think records-wise, this match they do line up as well because they both have similar records. So this was a great match. Like it got so close to the point where I thought it was like, are they actually going to pull it off? As it was, they just didn't. They just went in the wrong order at the end. But all in all, like Rachel sort of has shown that she can do really well in singles if she ever goes into singles, which I really think she should. But and all players played really well, and Drew just couldn't stop talking as always.
Yeah, I mean, that I don't think anyone's really surprised about that part of what we saw. He is fantastic about getting into people's heads. It was brought up during the post-match interviews. Drew or Andrew, since they're on a team of Drews, it's very confusing. Andrew's just fantastic about getting into people's heads. Rachel even kind of said in the post-match interview that they might have gone the other way on who picked their 2 and 3-pointer questions, but he kind of got into their head a little bit, and they ended up swapping it so that he had the first question, and they ended up knowing each other's answers and not getting those points. But I think even without that, Rachel running the gambit with Kevin Smith was just awesome. It was so great. I don't know that anyone really, I know it's one of their strengths, but at the same time, we've seen recently with specifically this team, Will Smith being a strength, and then the question's not really being what you would consider a Will Smith question. It's Will Smith adjacent question, and they didn't end up doing so well. With Kevin Smith, I feel like Rachel knows those movies really, really well. Maybe too well. I'm not sure. Well, obviously not too well because she got a lot of points. But Devon actually got a few points in there as well. And I think that while I love that people are really talking about getting Rachel into singles, I think there needs to be just as much talk about getting Devon into singles as well, because he's shown in previous matches that he has a lot of strengths as well, where the match has been flipped on its head, where Rachel doesn't perform as well and he performs really well. And that, I think as a team, it's one of the reasons they work so well together, because their specializations are so broad between the two of them. Rachel has, Disney, she's got animated, she's got apparently Kevin Smith, and Devon has Will Smith if they ask questions about Will Smith, and other specializations. And I feel like the breadth of what they know and are really, really good at can be a really dangerous combination if those questions come into play. Do you think that they're going to go, if there is a tournament later in the year, do you think they go pretty far in that tournament with the teams we have now?
I mean, it all comes down to who they end up playing in that first round. So if they end up playing someone like the Wallabies, if the Wallabies are there, I think they could potentially make it to the semis and show. But if they play someone like Who's the Boss or the Shire Wolves, then that is going to be a really tough one for them to pull out a victory on.
Yeah, and I'm with you at the point where they definitely need to get some more matches under their belt. I think they need to get a couple more wins just to start being comfortable with what their knowledges are and how to work as a team in that kind of setting. Outside of that, I think that they can be a really dangerous team, and I'm really excited to watch them play in the future. Now, if their next match is against the Wildberries, I would love it. I think that something we haven't talked about so far is just the chemistry that Rachel and Devon have in their promos is some of the best chemistry in the entire Schmoedown. Hilarious. They work so well off of each other, talking and bantering that, I mean, you have powerhouses in the other set of promos with Robert Meyer Burnett and Drew McWeeny and Andrew Guy. And I don't even remember what their promo was about, but I can tell you what Rachel and Devon talked about in their promo. It was so good. I'm looking forward to just the amount of banter that happens between Wildberries and Inky and the Brain. I think that's just going to be a fantastic match. I really want that to happen. I haven't talked about the family a lot, and it's not that they, obviously they did a good job. They won, but I feel like it was just a foregone conclusion that a lot of people had that they would win. And Inky and the Brain coming out as strongly as they did was such a surprise to a lot of people. And I feel like really needs to be celebrated how good they were in that match. But Drew McWeeny, I was kind of worried, and I know they had already had a match previously, but I was kind of worried that he would have an issue working with Andrew Guy in terms of character because their characters are so different. And he's used to playing with Sam, and Sam's very calm presence. He helps get Drew out into the banter a little bit, but he also knows when to back off and just play the game. And Andrew Guy is 100%. He is always trying to get into the competitors' heads. He's always trying to just like be that guy every second of every match. And I am not really worried about that anymore. I think that whatever is going on between the two of them, I don't know that it matters because Drew McWeeny in this match and the previous match that they had looks so strong. I mean, that round 2 was just spectacular. It was very, very good. And, his round 1 was spectacular as well. And Andrew Guy looks like he got over that Houston loss pretty well. So that's good for him. I'm glad to see that he picked himself back up and got right back on it. But yeah, I don't know that this match would have gone differently if Rachel and Devon had switched their 2 and 3. It would have forced the family to answer at least 2 of their questions to get right. So, I mean, who knows what could have happened, but this could have easily gone the other way, and that is saying something. It really is saying something. But yeah, I thought the family was great. I'm looking forward to them playing the Evil Geniuses, hopefully. I think that's going to be a great match as well. What do you think about that match between the family and Evil Geniuses?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one here, there, because I mean, like, while Drew are both good, um, Lon and JTE are both strong on their own, and I think that they'll still be pretty strong together as well. So, but yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Rachel said hi to John, so I was just letting him know. Hi, John. Yeah, I really want the family versus evil geniuses to be a good match. I think that it has the potential to be yet another amazing team match this season. I thought last season's teams were the highlight of the entire show. Um, this season's feeling like that again. I didn't think that the teams league could go any higher than it was last year, because last year was just so good where it ended, the whole shakeup and everything. It was so interesting. But this year's teams, I feel like, is just continuing on that trend upward, and is just all of the really, really great matches this year, or not all of them, but so many of them have been teams matches. And I feel like we keep getting consistent, really, really great teams matches like back to back. I am really impressed with this roster of teams. I think this is going to be a really interesting road to that last part of the season where we get into that tournament. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. We do have to talk about those cutscenes. So we only had, technically, we only really had one cutscene between Drew and Robert Meyer Burnett. And it's basically just Drew making sure that Andrew is ready to fight. I'm not sure that much really needs to be said about it, other than, Drew is obviously expressing the same doubts a lot of people have about their partnership. Um, you know, and you definitely saw in there how Drew is kind of taking his persona in this. He's very no nonsense. He doesn't want any of Robert Meyer Burnett's um, showmanship. We'll just say showmanship. But he doesn't want anything to do with that. He doesn't want anything to do with Guy's persona. He doesn't want anything to do with Robert Meyer Burnett's persona. He just wants to show up, be serious, play the game, be a scary guy. And that's it. And I think that that is an interesting character to have. And it definitely balances these two really kind of like flamboyant characters almost. They're so out there. It kind of balances them down and makes it a little more even. Did you like that cutscene between Drew and Robert Meyer Burnett, Malcolm?
Oh yeah, I mean it was definitely a fun cutscene because yeah, like Drew goes like, why did you even let that happen? It's like just chastising Robert My Burnett about getting the chair in there, to allowing him to be hit is like. But I mean, Robert needs to be careful not to piss off Drew, because otherwise he needs to talk to fans like what happens when you piss off Drew. It'll be Robert My Burnett hiding under the desk and fans off the net.
Hashtag poor Thad. I think that McWeenie is like the only person in the Schmoedown who is as big as Robert Meyer Burnett. So that would be an interesting fight. Not that I want to see it happen, but like it would be an interesting fight. The only other thing to talk about is this Andrew Guy Roxy thing in the post match interviews. It's a little weird. A little weird. I mean, let's see where this goes. What do you think? Where do you think this is going with Andrew and Roxy? Because to me, it's a little weird. The romance thing. I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, it is pretty strange. And I really don't know where it's going, but someone who might know where it's going is our very own Matt Kearns, who wrote a very good article that is on his own page. He posted in the Schmoedown page, so read that and find out what he thinks about what's going on. But yeah, I found it pretty weird. It's like it's part of me is kind of hoping that the odd couple and the family come together, because it's really Rox. It's one of those things like with Roxy playing both with hanging out with both teams, it's going to come down to a really conflict with interest should they both end up facing each other down the line.
Yeah, and that leads to kind of two possibilities, and you mentioned the one, which is basically, the half of it is eventually they'll probably face each other, and you'll have Roxy maybe betray Guy in that moment if if that comes to pass. The other half of it is, yeah, they could combine, and that would be really interesting because you already have a faction with two managers in it. With corruption, you have you have Ken and Grace kind of both being the manager. So this wouldn't be too out there to have both Roxy and Robert Meyer Burnett co-manage these two teams. It would be interesting. The dynamic would just, I don't know that the Schmoedown can handle Robert Meyer Burnett and Snyder and Andrew Guy in one faction. I don't know if we can handle that amount of volatility. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it handled Tom and Snyder in one faction, so maybe it can.
Yeah, we've got Frank Janis in the chat, and to answer your question, I do not know how you keep ending up in here, but you're here, so hello.
He's here for John first. I get it. It's fine. He's very popular. But yeah, so let's move on to the second match of the week. This is David Del Rio versus Liz Shannon Miller. After I got caught back up with their original matches, I remembered a little bit more about why I was really excited for this match, because I couldn't remember a lot about their matches because they happened so dang long ago. Get these rookies more matches. Yeah, this wasn't my favorite match. I don't want to say it's not a great match because I feel like that's a disservice to any match in the Schmoedown. They put a lot of work into them, even if the trivia's not great. Everything else around it is great. So it's hard to say any match isn't great, but this definitely is probably like on the very low end of matches this year. It just was not high scoring, not super interesting. There was no real storyline between the two people fighting against each other. So there's nothing kind of driving the match to be more interesting other than two rookies facing off to figure out who has the better record. Liz Shannon Miller, I think, is going to do very well in her next match as long as she doesn't get family films again. I think that round two not going their way in terms of wheel spinning definitely hurt this match a lot. I mean, you look at round two and it was 9-8, and there are matches that's the score coming out of round one. So yeah, I think that there is a legitimate sophomore slump kind of thing for some rookies coming in. They have a really great first showing, and then their second match is not so great. You saw it with, Bibiani, honestly. He had an amazing first match, and then his second match just wasn't as great. And, you start figuring out how to play the game. You start figuring out where your strengths are and how to spin the wheel and all this stuff. And then you start settling in and actually playing well. So I don't think we should count either of these two people out for their next matches. I think that they still have a lot of potential within the league. I am really looking forward to Liz and her next match because I think that she does have a lot of potential here, and it's going to be against JTE, so I think that'll be good. I'm just really... There's not much to say about this match other than don't be too hard on these two competitors. I think they're still trying to find their place within the tournament, or not the tournament, but the league itself. It's hard to break into it when your persona is kind of yourself, right? You're not a big character. You're not out there yelling, being crazy. You're just kind of there as yourself. And it's not the easiest place to be in for a rookie. So I want to see more for them, but at the same time, I think they need to find their own place within the league so that they can start standing out more. But they definitely need more opportunities so that can happen. Malcolm, I want to hear what you have to say about these two competitors. You can talk about the match, but what you want to see for them next, especially if Liz does beat JTE. This could be a really great match coming up, honestly.
Yeah, like both these competitors I think they both still have a lot of promise. It comes down to sort of what they are strong and really because I think when a lot of people get recent releases, I think they make the mistake of thinking, oh, it's movies that have been out in the last 3 to 4 months. But in reality, it can be anywhere from the last 18 months, I believe, is what they have recent releases. So I think a lot of people do make that mistake. It's like, oh, I've seen movies the last few months, so I could do one with this. But and I mean, I think it's smart that they haven't quite got a character, because when you come in with a character, sometimes it can work, sometimes it doesn't. If you come in with yourself and sort of use that time to sort of figure out like what do we want to be with the character, do you want your character to be a hyper textualized version of yourself, like what I believe Drew Guy is? He's more of a himself just ramped up to 1,000. But and I mean, it's one of those ones like characters like sometimes people gravitate to various things like because I know there's a lot of fans of Dan Murrell where he's one of those ones which doesn't have a noticeable character, but his knowledge is enough to sort of for people to gravitate to him to be a fan of him. Some people really like the high, loud characters like the Drew guys, the like my Burnett's and all that. But yeah, and yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think every character needs to be crazy, right? Like, I think we need a good mix of crazy and normal to balance the Schmoedown out. Because if everyone's crazy, it just starts getting a little, like, it gets a little much, honestly. All the yelling. I can't, I deal a lot with yelling at my house now. I don't need more of it in my life. Just a little bit more, not too much. I need a little balance. The Schmoedown should be like the Force. We need dark and light side Schmoedown competitors. Yeah, I really did like this match in terms of where this match will lead to next, because Frank did bring up that the questions were really tough, especially in round 2. I 100% agree. I think the round 2 questions were really difficult, and you did see that Liz, was pretty good in round 3. She brought it right back to, being who she was in her first match. So I'm looking forward to their next matches. I think they have potential moving forward, and I don't want this match to, darken their potential within the league, right? So Liz, her next match is against JTE. It's going to be a good match, I hope. And that leaves the question of who do we think David's going to go up against next, which kind of, we can talk about the rankings now if you'd like, because they all changed and there's some like interesting rank decisions in here. But if you look at the rankings, who's next to David or Dave in the rankings, he's 21st. Right ahead of the Wild Man and right behind the Kid. So I think those are your two. Well, I don't know. Will that ranking change? Because it's not updated at 1-1. Will he still be above the Wild Man?
I think he'll.
I think so.
Yeah, because I mean he's got he'll still have the equal record to Brendan.
Yeah, I think you're right. It just took me a second to look at that because the actual score didn't change, or the win rate didn't change in there. But yeah, I think that those are your two bigger potentials of who he's going to face next. I would say probably Brendan, just because he's also a rookie, so he's going to have they're going to want to give him more matches, but we haven't seen Josh play in singles. I don't know if that's just because he doesn't really want to play in singles as much right now, but I really kind of miss him playing in singles. So it would be nice to see if he could get back to 500. I mean,
he is suspended for a while, so
that's true. That's why we haven't seen him. I'm like, why I haven't seen him? Yeah, because he got banned. You know what? When I don't like the decision on something, I just block it from my memory. I don't agree that he didn't get banned when Roxy physically slapped someone, and it's just chilling. Yeah. The Schmoedown. Yeah, I would like to see Josh back. Apparently it's not going to happen. Whatever. Yeah, I think that the more likely thing is going to be Brendan. I think it'll be a good match. I think that Brendan will probably win that match, but I also just think that Brendan is one of the better rookies this year. So it's going to be really interesting to see what goes down there. So that's the second match of the week. I really do hope that people give these two competitors more shots and don't completely write them off, because I think they have more to do in the Schmoedown than what this match showed. So let's move on. We've got cutscenes to talk about for this match, and these were pretty interesting. So you had only the one cutscene, or no, we had two this one. Duh, because the Intergeekdom one was very important to someone we know. So the Intergeekdom one was Christian was talking to Emma about this Intergeekdom rookie match that's coming up, and it's going to include our good friend Brandon Hanna, the Boss Baby, who's no longer the Boss Baby, and that makes me sad. But that's pretty exciting that he's going to be debuting in the Schmoedown. Obviously, Kara thinks he's going to lose, so that's great. Let me just turn that down. Yeah, and then I honestly, there's someone else who's debuting, and I cannot remember for the life of me who it is. It's just someone who is around the studio a lot. But you're also getting Chance in his Intergeekdom debut. Keaton Marcy's going to be back, which I know you're excited about. Geez, that last name is just escaping me, and I'm sure someone in the chat will let us know who it is. But yeah, I think this is going to be a good match. I'm interested to see how Chance does. I'm interested to see if Keaton can kind of nail those subjects that she's really good at, because I think the first match she had, she just wasn't, she got a little too excited about Harry Potter and then flubbed that one answer that would have kept her in. Chandru, thank you. I don't know who that is, but they'll be good.
The offices all the time, so
they'll be good. So Malcolm, I know you're a big fan of Keaton Marcy, and I don't know if you're a good fan of any of these other people, but I know you're a good fan of her. So what do you think about this Intergeekdom match that got announced, and who do you think is coming away with the victory?
Yeah, like these four are really good. Like Chance in the fan leagues, like Chance was a champion at one stage, but they do have some different categories then in a geekdom. Like that's so I think Chance could do well. Keaton is good. Like she's really good at like Harry Potter and stuff like that. Whether she gets the questions that she knows, because it's like with people like KO, Smets, and Rachel at the top, it's going to be really hard to get to get to the top of the peak. But yeah, I don't know who this Brandon Hanna is, but apparently he'll always be the Boss Baby.
You don't ever you do know who Brandon Hanna is.
I know who he is.
See, he's not in the chat, and if he was in the chat, then we would pretend like we didn't know him. But since he's not actually currently watching, we know who you are. Yeah. I think this is gonna be a good match. I'm really looking forward to it. Who knows what Chance is going to do? Who knows what Brandon's going to do? We do know Keaton Marcy could be better this time around. Now that she maybe has evened out her game, who knows? I don't actually know what her mindset coming back into this is like, but I do think that it's going to be Brandon because he's a friend. Chance is also a friend. I'm just being mean to one friend. You gotta pick a friend.
So I'll probably be mean to that same friend later on.
That's true. Now, if Robert Parker decides to make this a 5-way match,
It's going to be a mystery fourth competitor. He's just changed his name so no one knows who he is.
Right, his name's Chandru now.
Yeah.
Cool, very cool. Chandru's a great name. Rob, it's a great disguise, so it's gonna be interesting. All right, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that Intergeekdom match. The next cutscene we had was just some good banter between Tom and Robert Meyer Burnett. It was really funny. These guys know how to, just play a part and entertain. I really like it. I think that we've been waiting to see them kind of go at each other for a while, and dang, it's going to be fun. Just watching them continue this. We got the return of the Navarro yell, which I won't do, but you can if you want. And really just Tom kind of poking the bear. Will we see Robert Meyer Burnett come back to the Schmoedown? That would be fun. I'm not sure how well he'll do in Intergeekdom. Now, Intergeekdom is such a different beast than it was when he was active playing in it. It's like, honestly, you have to live, eat, and breathe Intergeekdom if you want to be a contender in it. And I don't know that he is at that level, but at the same time, he could have been studying this entire time he's been off. So you never really know. I want to hear your thoughts on this cutscene, and if you think it means a return to the Intergeekdom ring for one Robert Meyer Burnett.
I mean, I think everyone's expecting a return to the in the Geekdom ring for Rob, and honestly, I do want that to happen eventually, because he was always good, like, and he's a former champion. Everyone seems to forget that, even the announcers sometimes, when they said that Navarro was first ever champion. So, but yeah, and I mean, he's still on the Intergeekdom ranking, so he hasn't officially retired from there. But I do think this cutscene is probably going to set up a Rob and Dagnino match down the line. One thing we forgot to talk about in the first cutscene is the change to the manager bowl for Collision as well.
Yes, thank you. See, this is why you're here, to make sure I don't forget really important things. So why don't you explain that manager bowl change, since you're talking about it currently?
But yeah, so basically, the managers aren't competing in the manager bowl. The managers are going to pick a representative to be in the match, and whichever one wins, the manager will be in charge of Sam and Emma for 1 month. And Christian made clear to say that Roxy isn't going to be allowed to be part of it because she's not really a faction with only 2 people. But yet, in saying that, Jay also is a faction with 2 people in it. So
yeah, that's true. You kind of have limited choices for some of these factions here, but it's an interesting take on it, and I think it'll create a more interesting match, because a lot of the people who are managers because they don't really want to do the trivia. Like, Roxy has no desire to step into the ring. She loves the Schmoedown. She likes what's going on in it, but she doesn't want to be a competitor. And you have, some people like Tom who they can be fantastic. We have seen Tom be fantastic in the Schmoedown. But he also sometimes isn't that great at the Schmoedown. It really just depends on what questions he gets. But yeah, you have a lot of people who are managers now who just aren't really up to the level of competitor as everyone else. And like, is Kaiser good at trivia? Like, I mean, that would be great. I would love it to see him banter with people at a table. But is he good at trivia? I don't know. We don't know. But I'm really looking forward to seeing who these people all pick to be their, number ones or number, whatever you want to say. It's a duel. Yeah. They're fighting for the people, so they're the number ones, and the managers are their number twos. I don't know. Semantics. I'm looking forward to seeing who they all pick. I think that's going to be a lot of speculation the closer we get to the manager bowl.
Yeah.
Who has this all go down. And Rachel, yes, Tom almost won the first free-for-all, but he was literally the last person to come out on the table against one person.
But
Yeah.
who do you think that will be picked?
Oh man, out of all of them, it's hard to tell. I think the easiest one right now is the dungeon because there's only one confirmed player in the dungeon. So it's probably going to be Kevin. For the rest of them, I think, the family potentially, I'd say McWeenie is the better chance there. If you're going with Jay's, Janine is on such a good streak this year. I feel like that would be the good pick for me for Jay's team. Everyone else is kind of up in the air because there's a lot of really good competitors in these other factions that I think would really stand out. Like the Horsemen, that is a stacked faction. You have Merle, you have Riley, you have Bateman, you have Roka, and potentially another one if they're actually headhunting for Inner Geekdom. I mean, that's a stacked faction. I don't know who I would pick. The easiest pick would be Merle, but does he really need that opportunity? I don't know. Probably not. And Zipper and Oyama weren't confirmed in the dungeon, right? They had tryouts. Their next match is a tryout, right?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think they're treating it as if it's confirmed, so it's going to be interesting. And I think I honestly don't know, but I mean, I think that if the family are going to throw McGreeny out, the smart one will probably be for maybe Dagny to throw for Merle and Ethan to probably get in the mix because that's otherwise like McGreeny in there, it's going to be tough for anyone else.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
man, the other
one is the singles title's not being defended, so we may not see Merle at all in the collision unless he uses his championship match and cashes in. So
that's true. Honestly, there are so many different things to think about when you're thinking about who to put into this manager match, because it could be one of the most stacked matches to happen at the collision, depending on who each manager picks. And you also have to think that manager might not want to put someone in who has a match already at the event. So, they might not want to have one competitor playing 4 times or 3 times or something. So they might sit one person out who would be the better choice. There's a lot of thinking that goes into who gets picked. So it's gonna be interesting. I think we're gonna definitely have to keep an eye out on some of these surprises that could happen in who gets picked. But yeah, man, what a twist. It's a good twist. I really enjoyed it. Definitely more of a twist than what happened in the rankings. Although the placement of Chance I thought was interesting because they have Chance lower than Liz Shannon Miller, but it just seems a little weird to me. I thought he would have been higher, but maybe with accuracy ratings, I guess maybe he's lower than she is. But to me, I think Chance is he feels like he should be in the top 10 at this point, but I guess he's not. We'll see after Oyama.
Yeah.
Did you before we move on, did you have any thing to say about the ranking switch ups?
Yeah. I mean, I just had to laugh that the 3 people that got moved down because we're not going to see them in singles match this season are all part of the 5 club. So whether it's good, there was just I just found that really funny. But I mean, I'm not too surprised on the shake-up is like Paul being in the top 10 makes sense. And same with Fliz being undefeated. I mean, even though I was just like giving Shad's shit about still being below Janine, I feel like he should have been maybe a spot above Janine because he's only got 1 loss while Janine has got more losses. But yeah, I mean, I've stopped trying to work out how Karloff is doing these rankings and just learn to go with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I don't particularly always agree with that. And the cool guy brought up that 2-0 is a better record than 2-1. Look, I usually look at wins and I look at who those people faced. The fact that Liz Shannon Miller beat 2 rookies to get those 2 wins and, not established players, to me, put Chance's wins over hers a little bit. It kind of like edges it out. And I don't really look at that loss because their wins are the same. So that's just my reasoning on why I think Chance should be ahead of Liz.
Yeah.
If you go by the technical, she's undefeated. Sure, it's a better record, but she also hasn't really had an opportunity to face someone that's been established within the Schmoedown. We're about to get it. So, if she beats JTE, by all means, man, put her at number 5, number 6, who cares? If she beats JTE, I think that, she deserves to be at that ranking, but it's just really hard to tell if someone's ahead of someone else when they haven't had a chance to, actually play someone who's been in the Schmoedown for a while. So, I think the rankings, there's a lot of changes, but at the same time, it's just people who aren't playing as much kind of moving down a little bit and people who are playing more moving up. So that makes sense to me. It's not that big of a deal. I was sad to see Clark Wolf moving down a lot more. But it is what it is.
And Frank brings up a point in the chat that that Christian doesn't look at accuracy apparently.
I'm not surprised about that.
and Brandon Hatters just joined the chat too.
Oh well, who? Yeah, Brandon, we said nice things about you earlier, but we also said that if you joined the chat, we would pretend like we didn't know you. So you're welcome. So that's all we have to say about the rankings. Next week's matches are going to be a lot of fun. We have Zipper versus Hlavik, and I think this is going to be a great match. It's going to be interesting to see Zipper and what he can do in Inner Geekdom, because we aren't sure. It's his first real Inner Geekdom match, and he played really well in that Marvel match. Was that him in that Marvel match? It was. Yeah. Right? I'm not crazy, am I?
Was Zipper and
I thought he.
I think
now I gotta look it up.
I don't remember if he was in the Marvel match. I know Sean Gerber was the one that did really well in the Marvel match.
Oh no, you're right. It was Sean. Okay, well then I don't know what I'm thinking.
They both look the same.
Oh, sure. They don't, but sure they do. But yeah, we have no idea what he's going to be like in Inner Geekdom. So I'm excited to see this match because I think Hlavik, he has a little bit more to give in Inner Geekdom. I think people sleep on him a little bit just because, Zipper played Rachel. I don't remember that. When did that happen? Thanks, Frank.
That was in the Inner Geekdom tournament. Because I think they met each other in the second round.
You're right. Oh, man. Well, oh, well. See, a soup. It's a soup in here of random things that don't matter to the Schmoedown. Like, history. Schmoedown history? Who needs it? I don't need to remember that stuff. Apparently, I do. Oh, well. Well, we know how Zipper played against Rachel. He lost. But I'm interested to see Hlavik and Zipper playing against each other because I think that they'll give us a good match. And I'm interested to see who comes out on top. I do want to give the edge to Hlavik just because he's been around the block a little bit more. He's played some of those upper tier people, and Zipper's only kind of played Cushing. So it's hard to show your true level of competitiveness in Inner Geekdom when the first match you have is against Rachel Cushing. Yeah. So
both their last matches were against Rachel Cushing.
Yeah. I mean, if you play in the Inner Geekdom, you're probably going to lose to Rachel Cushing at some point. It's probably going to happen. Oh, and Zipper beat Mark Carlson. See, this is why I didn't remember. Because while Mike Carlson was hilarious, he wasn't really good. So yeah, so Zipper lost to Rachel Cushing, and that's all that he's really done in the Schmoedown and Inner Geekdom. Yeah, it's going to be a good match. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens here because I do think we need to get Inner Geekdom back to being a deeper pool of people. It's become really a 3-man game, and you never want the league to go down to 3 people because then it just becomes them back and forth like Star Wars, in which you're just seeing the same people fighting each other and you always know who's going to win, and it's just not as interesting. You need to break some new talent into there, which I think they're starting to do. They're starting to give some of these guys in the middle ground a little more chance to shine. And we're getting all these Inner Geekdom rookies. I think it's going to be a really interesting time for Inner Geekdom to see who can break in, who can make the league a little more competitive. What do you think about this? Now that we know the history of Eric Zipper, what do you think about this match?
Yeah, I mean, this match is it's going to show sort of who's been studying up the most about the Rika side of things, because I mean, they both. And I mean, that's the problem for a lot of this pool for Inner Geekdoms. Like, a lot of people are really big strengths in like 1 or 2 things, but a lot of the other ones like very iffy on. To be up there with Rachel, Kevin, and Mike, you need to be really good at everything and study up on them because, yeah,
I'm with you. I think that you definitely need to see a little bit more depth if you're going to be in the Inner Geekdom. So it's really who has done the work and put in the time to get to the level of a Cushing or a Smets. So yeah, these guys could be pretty dangerous. We don't really know until we see their match. I'm still giving the edge to Hlavik. Overall, I think he's just got more in the Schmoedown to work with.
yeah.
The next match is Chance and Oyama, the much-awaited match between Chance and Oyama. This is going to incite a lot of fans because these guys, number one, came from the Fans League, and they have a lot of friends in those leagues. They have a lot of supporters in those leagues, diehard supporters, honestly. And, that gets a little dangerous when you're making predictions. But they also have become some really liked characters in the actual Schmoedown in their own rights. And I think Paul is kind of getting more opportunity to show that he can be a good character in the Schmoedown. His first match didn't really give him that opportunity. He just came into the league looking like a second chance. But I think he's showing that he's more than that. He's more than just another chance to, in the league. And, Chance, I think, has definitely earned his place in the league, in teams and singles, and now Inner Geekdom. I mean, there aren't very many people in the league who can do a triple threat. And that speaks a lot to his character in the Schmoedown. Who will win? I am going to give the edge to Chance. I do think that experience has some role to play here. Chance has had more time in the league. He's had more time in singles. He's had more times in teams. He's seen the ring more. He's been this close to championships. He's got knowledge of the game under his belt by being able to play more. Nothing against Oyama. I think he's got just as much knowledge as Chance does. He's definitely one of the good rookies that have come out of recent times, but Chance just has the experience. And I usually, in matches like these where the knowledge behind the two players seems pretty even, I give my pick to the person who has the experience. So my picks for Chance. I know that the people in the chat are disagreeing with me. That's fine. And Malcolm, I know that you're way more involved with the fan leagues than I am, and so picking here might be a little more difficult for you. But who would you have to pick if you were going to pick one of these guys to win?
I'm going on the other line. I think Oyama has what it takes to beat Chance. Because this is the first time they've come face to face ever, because they never came face to face in the fan leagues one-on-one. So this is the first time they're going to sort of find out sort of who has the better knowledge between them. So and to quickly go back to the inner geekdom talk, where Yusa and Chan brought up a good point that Chance could probably win that because Mike has probably trained him, so Mike is probably helping him study. So
yeah, that is true. That he's got a previous belt holder in his ring, and that belt holder is also still one of the top 3 competitors in the Inner Geekdom League right now. And yeah, there could be some studying going on. The other half of that is, does Mike really want another person moving in on his turf, especially one in his own faction? I'm sure that they, face value always say, I hope you do well, but if it comes down to it, how excited are they to really have more, competition to get that belt back? Will he betray this team as well? No, probably not. I'm sure he's not going to betray this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think like Mike, I think Mike doesn't matter either way as long as the belt is within the faction. So I think it's one of those things like if the belt's in the faction, then it's a win. But a lot of these factions are going, if the belt is in the faction, it's a win for the whole faction.
Yeah, for sure. Rachel brings up a good point. You think Mike is helping Chance train when he has to focus on facing Smets? You're accurate. No, that's an accurate concern. At the same time, I think that when you are doing trivia with other people, like you're helping them train, you're training yourself. So they could be, reading questions to each other. They could be, what movie did you just watch? Who's the director? Who's the main cast? What person did the composition, all that stuff. They can be talking to each other about everything and helping each other train. But yes, I'm sure Mike is focusing on his own inner geekdom battle against, this person who has completely dominated everything. He's very scary.
I just had a photo of a potential cutscene, and a Princess Bride type cutscene of Chance lying in the bed with Mike playing the grandpa while just reading questions back and forth.
that would be pretty funny. You know what? We have a lot of good ideas about potential cutscenes that never happen. So we'll just file this away in the same place.
Along with the anger management therapy table.
The Andrew Guy survivors therapy class. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It'll just go in there. We'll just file that away.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited about this next week. These could be some heavy hitting matches, and man, the fan base could just explode after Oyama and Chance. It really could. These guys have some really loyal fans, so I'm not excited about if something goes weird in this match. I'm hoping it's just a nice, clean match. I hope that for every match, but specifically for this one, because I feel like a lot of people have very personal stakes in this match. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the match. I'm not looking forward to everyone talking about it. I love you all. Yeah, so that's all we have for the Schmoedown, unless you have anything else you wanted to bring up that happened. I don't think there was much news outside of
there. Yeah, I didn't come across any other sort of news that.
Yeah, there was a couple things on the Facebook page that were kind of funny. Kaiser with a picture of him and Brendan Meyer, but he also was like, I don't think Brendan is the right fit for the dungeon, and I kind of think that's wrong because you have all these really intense people, and then Brendan can just be sitting there like, hi guys. I think that'd be kind of funny. But yeah, that's probably not going to happen. But yeah, I don't think there was anything else, so we are going to do our plugs. Malcolm, where can we find you?
You can find me hosting Rankum every Sunday night. Next week we're doing top 12 Pixar movies. And last week you can find the craziness that was our songs from animated movies, which got really interesting in the end. But you can also find me hosting Full Metal Random every Tuesday. This week we've got a SpongeBob trivia match happening. You can also find me all over the fan leagues competing and helping out wherever needed.
Awesome. Yeah, you got a lot going on, and I'm sorry I didn't make it to that rankum, but I think that it would have stressed me out too much, to be honestly. Yeah, it was a good episode. You can find me right here on the Take 3 Schmoedown Reactor Summit, where we go over the Schmoedown every week. If you don't know what we're doing on this show and you watch the whole thing, man, what kind of drugs are you on? You can also find me randomly on other Take 3 things when I have time. Hopefully, we'll do some reactions in the near future, specifically maybe to a match with people that we know from fan leagues. And you can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Stardust at Smith_K10, the number, not the word, even though I don't post anything on Stardust. I'm still going to plug it every week. And yeah, that's all we got for you guys. Thank you all for watching. You guys, again, in the chat have just been killing it. Thank you guys for watching live. It's just been a lot of fun reading your comments as we talk, and you guys are great. So thank you all. We hope that you guys have a wonderful week. And if you haven't gone to the actual Schmoedown matches and liked them and commented on them, do that as well, because it's very important to the algorithms, you know, all those numbers that float around Zach Galifianakis' head. Yeah, the algorithm. It's very important. All right. Have a good day. Take care.